Try to get this thing started now. My name is Crawford. I'm going to be talking about creativity. One request, one permission, whatever. If you want to take this session, that's fine by me. And then a request. This is a very tightly prepared and rehearsed lecture. I'm going to ask you to defer any questions or interstitial comments until the end, when I have unrolled the entire thing. So I'll come a part of the scenes if I'm interrupted in any way. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about creativity here. Creativity is pretty difficult to do. The first thing you're supposed to do in any lecture like this is define your subject matter. Problem: creativity is magic. There's simply, it defies rational analysis. There's simply no way that you can take it apart into little bitty pieces, laid out like a butterfly and dissect it and so forth. You just can't do that. It remains one of those mysterious human things that we can never really define or analyze or anything like that. So I can't really put my hands on creativity for you. About the best I can do is sort of wave them around in the general locale of creativity. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be tackling the subject, approaching it from a lot of different angles, trying to give you a feeling for some of the ideas I've got on creativity, but I'm not going to be able to give you anything really hard and fast because creativity is such weird, magical stuff. I will make a point so fundamental, it should be intuitively obvious to everybody. Creativity is concerned with the invention of something new and different. Now, we'd also like to think that it's better. It is possible, of course, to have bad creativity, to make something new and different that really stinks. But let us, for the moment, set that aside. Knowing it's easy to happen, let us concern ourselves only with good creativity. The important point, though, here is that creativity is different. We're making something that is not the same as what has happened before. And that's so simple, it's dumb. But I'm going to be coming back to that point because it turns out that gets lost in the wash frequently in discussions of larger issues of game design. So one of the points I want to make about creativity is that there are degrees of creativity. There's little creativity and large creativity. And I use two phrases to describe that. I talk about incremental creativity, and I also like to talk about grand leap creativity. Now, incremental creativity is the easiest one to understand. You take an existing idea and you do it one better, and this is done quite frequently. For example, Richard Garriott came out with Ultima, and then he decided it was such a success he decided to do it better, so he did Ultima 2. The title is an oxymoron. And then he did Ultima 3, which is even more oxymoron. And then Ultima 4 and Ultima 5, and it's just compounding the oxymoronity here. Anyway, but the basic idea is he kept improving on it. Let's take the existing idea, do it one better. We've seen this with Infocom. The line I love to give about Infocom is a variation on a quote about Vivaldi. Somebody once said, Vivaldi did not write 465 concerti. He wrote one concerto 465 times. And Infocom is the same way. They haven't done 30 or 50 different products. They've done one product 30 or 50 times over and better each time. So Infocom is engaged in lots and lots of incremental creativity. It doesn't have to be the same person, though. Many times an idea will bounce from hand to hand, being improved each time. For example, we had Dungeons and Dragons. And then a guy in Utah decided he would do it one better by putting it on the computer. And he did something on Plato called Moria. And then a couple other guys looked at that and said, wow, that's really neat. I think I can do that on an Apple II. And they did something called Wizardry. And then somebody else looked at that and said, hey, we can do better than that. And they did Bard's Tale. And then they looked at it again and said, we can do better than that. We can do Bard's Tale too. And then they looked at it again. We can do better than that. We'll do Wasteland. And I guarantee you someday somebody will come out with Schmaceland and do it one better. So sometimes this incremental creativity just bounces around from person to person. But the basic idea is always the same. You take an existing idea and you do it one better. Now the grand leap creativity That's different. In that, what you're really doing is making a clean break with the past, starting all over, designing something completely new and different. You're revolutionary type stuff. And the fact is, that never happens. Pure grand leaps just don't happen. Because everything that we do is in some way based on something that came beforehand. However, there are some products that have very little in connection with anything that's gone before. There are degrees here. Some things that are incrementally, but it's a lot of incremental. And then there are some things that are small leaps, and then medium-sized leaps, and then big leaps. And the grand leap is the noble ideal that we never achieve. So what we have here is this spectrum, this scale of creativity. And the basic factor in this is, to what extent are you making a change? How different are you? The more different you are, the further you are up this scale. So, that's incremental, that's grand leap. What else can we say about it? Well, here's a point I'd like to make about these two. Should be easy. Incremental creativity is a lot easier to do than grand leap creativity. Well, it's obvious that it's easy to do. I mean, all you're doing is taking an existing idea and you're making a few changes in it. An interesting point, though, that is sometimes lost is that grand leap creativity is much, much more difficult to do than most people appreciate. A lot of people seem to think that if you make it twice as different, if you make it twice as creative, it'll be twice as hard. No way. It's 4 times or 8 times harder. Why? You see, a game is a system, a huge system of interacting subsystems. There are all sorts of little things that go into making a game. It's like a living creature. And all those systems have to be in balance. If a system goes out of balance, the game isn't fun. There's an easy way to win. Hey, all you got to do is build, orcs. And if you got 50 different green orcs, the orcs will win the game for you. It's a lock-on victory. It's just too easy. If a game goes out of balance, it just doesn't work. It's not fun. It's like it's like you're God and you're designing an animal, and you make the heart too small, and as soon as the animal gets excited, it dies of a heart attack. A game is the same way. All of these little subsystems have to fit together perfectly. Now, when you engage in incremental creativity, you take an existing system. That creature is there, and all you do is turn 1 or 2 knobs. You say, well, we'll increase this a little and decrease that a little. We'll give it a little more graphics, a few more monsters, bigger vocabulary, and poof, same game. And the trick is that the changes that you're doing, when you turn 1 dial, you're throwing the system out of balance, but the only things you have to rebalance for are the interactions between that 1 dial and the rest of the machine. But if you're over here with a grand leap, and you've thrown in 5 completely new systems, and they're all interacting with each other. You got 10 dials in front of you, and you turn this dial, and the whole thing goes dead. And you turn that dial, and this one, and that one, and it's hard to find a balance point that makes the whole system work. So it is immensely more difficult to do a grand leap or any type of big leap in creativity than incremental creativity. So, grand leap is real hard to do. Incremental is real easy to do. Well, that would suggest the next point. Most of what most people do is incremental creativity. You look out there, the games that are on the shelves right now, the vast majority of those games are incrementally creative products. They're based on existing ideas, only they made it a little bit better. I would personally guess maybe 99% of all the games out there are incrementally creative. But don't take my words for it. Take Computer Gaming Worlds here. They got August 1988 issue. What I want to do is give you a few quotes from their column, Taking a Peek, which is a quickie review of all the games coming out. Let's just see what they say about the latest games that are coming out. This is a Maze Chase game. This is a Zaxxon-type space game. Offers a familiar feel and challenge to arcade. Blah, blah, blah. It's an outer space polo or hockey game. This is a modern variation of the venerated Oriental strategy game of Go. Let's see. An attractive Arcanides type game. We even have a whole class now, Arkanoids games. This is a running, jumping chase game. An espionage chase game, that's a variation on other chase games. This product incorporates ideas from several earlier action hits. Think of Pac-Man in hyperspace. A graphic adventure in the traditional sense of parser-driven illustrated stories. The screens look like several other martial arts games. The newest version of the famous flight simulation program. The action screens look like detailed versions of Zaxxon. This is another arcade spaceship shoot-'em-up with that three-dimensional feel. This parser-driven graphic adventure and the Battlefront system as refined and enhanced through the prolific sequels. I mean, it's fairly obvious here. Most of the stuff coming out is incrementally creative. Is that good or is that bad? Well, let's not worry about the industry as a whole. Let's worry about you. What are you going to do? Do you want to do incremental games or grand leap games? What's better for you as a developer? Well, the right way to answer that question would be for us to do a scientific study. Why we go out there and we collect every game that's appeared in the last 3-4 years, and then every game we'd have a panel of scientific judges looking at it and say, this is 4.3 on the creativity scale, and this is 6.1, and that's 2.3, and we rate every one by its creativity, and then we look and see how many units it sold and how much money it earned for the author, and we do a big statistical plot graphic, money against creativity, and we get a scatter chart and we plot lines and curves through it and do statistical analyses, and maybe it would come out showing that the more creative you are, the more money you get, and maybe it would come out being exactly the opposite. Well, we don't know because we can't do that. First place, we can't really measure how much creativity any game has. The second place, we're really not going to get our hands on much marketing information on what's sold that well, so we can't do it the right way. So how are we going to decide this issue? Well, we'll never even come close to that, but I can give you some really unreliable information that at least suggests whether that curve points up or down. So what I'd like to do is first look at the industries. Let's look at incremental creativity. And since I said 99% of all the products out there are incremental, let's just say that we'll look at the industry as a whole and use that as a gauge of how well incremental creativity does. There's some flaws in that, but it'll get us into the right ballpark. Well, I sat down with some various lists of games and a variety of other sources, and I made lists and scratches and check marks and counts, and I came up with a very rough figure of merit here. Typically, in this industry, about 1 game in 50 becomes a hit. Now, it depends on what you call a hit. We can quibble all day. But that was the number I came up with. 1 game in 50, a 2% hit rate. Now, that's how good incremental creativity does. How are we going to gauge grand leap creativity? Well, I'm going to offer myself. Not because everything I've done has been a grand leap, because remember, you can't plan on that basis. What I can say is that throughout my career, I have consistently pursued a strategy of striving for the grand leap, which is basically the same type of decision you want to make. Do I want to try to do it or not? And I'll tell you, some of my stuff has been leapy, and some of it has been little leaps, and some medium-sized leaps. And, I haven't hit every time, but I have consistently worked in the direction of grand leaps.